Hello, hello. Welcome to this very detailed training, end-to-end training on how to lose weight. So the goal here is to teach you how to lose weight by lowering your cortisol and increasing your metabolic rate, especially if you're a busy professional woman in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. I've been a fitness coach for the last 8 years, and I've been in fitness for the last decade. We've trained over 2,000 clients. You can look me up. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what I've done or how we've got here. But overall, in this training, I'm not going to hold anything back. I'm going to be as transparent as possible. I'm going to give you all the details and all the information that you need to know in order to lose weight. So then you can take it and have an amazing weight loss journey. Because personally, I'm sick and tired of all the misinformation out there, all the fad diets out there, all the scammy programs out there. And then all these sisters, all of you corporate busy professionals, you just don't have time to sift through all the information. There's like a information obesity. We call it info obesity right now. So in this training, I'm going to guide you with all of it. I've trained hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of professional women in this age bracket who've not only been able to lose 20, 30, or 40 or 50 pounds, but they've also kept it off. So the stuff I'm teaching you works, right? So let's dive in. So in this video, we're going to cover everything you need. So the very first thing we'll talk about is your goal, right? What is a healthy rate of weight loss that doesn't crash your metabolism? Because far too often, sometimes we have expectations that we should be losing weight faster, etc., that ends up messing with us. So the first thing always in any weight loss journey is the goal. So that's what we'll dive in on the next slide. And then we'll also talk about the nutrition, right? Because nutrition is one of the biggest components when it comes to fat loss. So we'll talk about how to eat more of the right type of carbohydrates to lower your cortisol and increase your metabolic rate, right? Then we'll talk about exercise or training. This is where I'll teach you how to burn 5 times as many calories as cardio. And then also we'll talk about some scientific facts and how BMR, which is your basic metabolic rate, burns 60 to 70% of your total daily energy expenditure, and cardio only burns 10 to 15%. And I'll prove that to you, right? And then we'll talk about accountability and why you keep falling off track, even though you're so motivated every time you start your weight loss journey, and why that falling off track happens. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we'll go into some detail about cortisol, right? Stress, how cortisol blocks weight loss, and why low calorie diets are actually not helpful for women with high stress. And we'll teach you how to fix that so you can actually lose weight. And the last part will be sleep. Actually, there's one more part. Second last part will be sleep and how sleep directly impacts your hormones. And sleep is one of those areas. After having last year alone, I did about 800 consultations. In 2024, I did about 800 fitness consultations with busy professional women that wanted to lose weight, right? So these are the conversations I have every single day. And sleep, for some reason, gets the least amount of love, right? Sleep directly impacts your hormones and it directly impacts weight loss. But for some reason, we don't even think about it when we're trying to lose weight, right? Like, what's the number one thing you think about when you're trying to lose weight? Oh, I gotta quit all carbs. I gotta drink green smoothies. I gotta go jogging every day. I gotta go on a walk. But nobody talks about sleep. The sleep is very, very important. And then the last part is going to be supplements. So quick hacks to get some easy wins to help fill out some of the gaps. So now let's dive in. That's the table of content. This gives me structure. A lot of this training, I'm going to be free flowing based on my coaching experience, based on my own fitness journey, based on all the knowledge and education I've had in this area myself. But overall, just using the slides as kind of like a framework so I don't forget to mention something. So you're not going to see too many words on the slide. So the goals, right? Very important. So if you're starting your fitness journey, the first thing I would start off with is setting a very good goal. So grab a pen and paper and let's set some goals, right? Because most women set too aggressive of a target and they rush the process, which in doesn't help their body, right? Because their body then it crashes their metabolism along the way, which makes it too easy to give up, right? And then you feel jaded to diet in the future. So don't let that be you because it's this vicious cycle. You set expectations that are too high and they're not even realistic with your lifestyle. And then what happens? You end up, crashing your metabolism, not getting the results. Now shame and guilt kicks in, and then you end up just being like, nothing works for me, Mo. I tried that, didn't work for me. No diet works for me. Exercise doesn't work for me because for some reason I'm so unique that nothing works for me, right? So when I say it, it sounds like, oh yeah, like that doesn't sound, like me. But in reality, a lot of us live that way because as soon as shame and guilt kicks in, And almost always, you don't feel ashamed when the expectations are realistic, right? But when the expectations are crazy high and the reality is here, you end up feeling ashamed of yourself or feeling guilty that you didn't do the right things, etc. So that's number one. Now, the goal here is I want you to aim for 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss per week. Okay, 1 to 2 pounds per week. Sometimes it's going to be half a pound and sometimes it might be 3 pounds. But overall, the goal is 1 to 2 pounds per week. We have helped our clients lose hundreds and hundreds of pounds with just doing 1 to 2 pounds a week. And here's why this is important. That 1 to 2 pound number is very important because we want to preserve the muscle. Because remember, we want to lose the fat and retain or build more muscle because muscle is going to help you keep the fat off. It's going to keep you healthy. It's going to keep away the knee pain. It's going to keep away the back pain. It's going to keep your body strong. That's what you actually want. And I promise you, just by gaining a little bit of muscle, you're not going to turn masculine. You're not going to look like a man. And you're definitely not going to look like a bodybuilder. Okay. So the whole purpose to preserve muscle is to keep your metabolism stable. Now, what I often see is people do aggressive diets, aggressive deficits. So that's where they're trying to lose like 3+ pounds a week. And they do make that happen in the first week because they quit all carbohydrates, they quit rice, they stop eating sugar, they stop eating all carbohydrates. Now they lose the water weight, right? So the number on the scale goes down by 3 to 5 pounds and they get very excited. Problem is, the rebound, right? As soon as they start eating, they eat fruit, they eat some kind of carbohydrate, those number on scale comes right back because they didn't actually lose fat. What they lost was water weight. So here, aggressive deficit usually also causes metabolic slowdown and rebound weight gain. So unnecessary. I would rather slow and steady wins the race versus aggressive strategies end up just rebound weight gain. You're going to gain all of it back plus some more. So people that have lost weight aggressively, they've lost 20 pounds, majority of them, 90+% of them gain 25 pounds back. So they lost 20, gained 25 back. So what's the point, right? That's the rebound weight gain we don't want. Now, sustainable progress is more about consistency than speed. So I want you to focus on long-term fat loss. So I know this doesn't sound exciting, and you might be like, "Mo, man, oh, another slow way of losing weight," right? But the truth is, I want you to keep it off for the long run. And I promise, even if it takes us 6 months or a year to help you lose 50, 60 pounds, the good news is once you lose it, you're not going to remember how long it took anyway. You'll just be happy that you get to keep it off because once we get there, you'll actually be fit for the rest of your life versus losing 30 pounds and then being scared for your life, being like, oh, I don't want to gain it back. I don't want to gain it back, right? Like if you're one vacation away from gaining all the fat back, you didn't really lose it the right way to begin with, right? I go on vacation. I was just in Mexico and I was still fine, right? Still have my abs, have all of that. So, needless to say, you might be like, oh, you're a man. No, it's not like that. We have female clients with 3 kids, full-time engineering jobs, able to do this just fine. One of our Muslim clients with 3 kids, a pharmacist, was in Egypt for 2 months, family vacation, and still lost, kept all the weight off, right? So these stories, I'm not making this up. This is real. If you lose weight the right way, you'll keep it off for the long run and you won't have to worry about vacation or anything like that. Like you can go on vacation, you can have fun, and you still won't. You might maybe gain like 2 or 3 pounds back, but you're not going to gain 20 pounds back. Versus when you lose weight the wrong way, you almost always gain it all back. And then we were like, yeah, I'm good when I'm home. And when I travel, I'll gain all the weight back. It's like, yeah, because you lose weight the drastic, aggressive deficits way, which is not what we want. We want to be sustainably, consistently losing just 1 to 2 pounds slowly because it gives your body time to acclimate, right? Now, hopefully this makes sense. So, goal. Where are you currently at? So, if you have a piece of paper, right, write down your current body weight. So, what is your current body weight? Write that down. Is it 200 pounds? Is it 150? Whatever it is, I want you to write that down. And then I want you to write down your goal weight. Okay. So where do we want our goal to be? So let's say you're currently at 180 pounds and your goal is to be at 140 pounds. Okay. So that gives us about 40-pound difference. We should lose this 40 pounds. By the way, first of all, it's very doable. Second, every pound that you lose is going to alleviate a lot of the pressure on your joints. So if you currently have knee pain, back pain, stuff like that, the more you lose the weight as you get stronger, less and less pain because your body's getting healthier. The way I like telling my clients is when you're 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight and you've been overweight for the last many years, imagine you've been carrying a backpack, a 40-pound backpack for the last however many years, 24 hours a day. You're just carrying this backpack. Don't you think that would be bad on your knees? Don't you think that would be bad on your back? So our goal, our currently, let's say, for example, we're at 180. Goal is to get to 140. So our target is to lose 40 pounds. Now, like I said, 1 to 2 pounds per week. So that means we should give ourselves 20 to 40 weeks, right? So that's anywhere from, because if we take 20 to 40 weeks, that means it's going to take us 1 to 2 pounds a week on average to lose 40 pounds. So that takes us anywhere from 5 months to about nine, I think, to 10 months. So 5 to 10 months. Okay. You see how this whole goal seems realistic all of a sudden? Because we're going to take it day by day, week by week, month by month. And I promise you, if we lose 20 pounds in the next 4 months and 5 months, you'll be unrecognizable. You'll be getting compliments like crazy and you'll actually keep it off. We see this happen every day. So now we have the goal. So whatever you're currently at, wherever you want to go, what the difference is, that's your goal. Now, as we dive into nutrition, now we're going into part two, because having the goal alone is not enough. That's why you see so many people set New Year resolutions that get nowhere, right? Because they just set the goal. I'm actually going to give you the sauce and the strategy. So, nutrition. This is where most people make a lot of mistakes. So, most women, what they do is they restrict their calories too much, when too much, which actually spikes their cortisol levels. So, cortisol is a hormone in the body, right? And then it increases the stress, messes up your hunger, it reduces the metabolism. So then your body's burning less and less and less calories, right? So then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot by that. So what I want you to do is prioritize complex carbohydrates. I don't want you eating donuts and I don't want you eating candy, stuff like that, but complex carbs, right? So things like rice, oats, potatoes, fruits. And you might be like, Mo, I thought rice made you fat. Yes, eating an exorbitant amount of rice makes you fat. Eating a lot of anything makes you fat. But complex carbs, 1 serving of rice with lunch, you can have some oats for breakfast, you can have some potatoes with dinner. That helps a lot, right? Because it helps lower cortisol and it's going to fuel metabolism. Okay. So prioritize complex carbs. Now, avoid the chronic low carb dieting because it is so detrimental. So many of you do this all the time because it's popularized by, just really crazy magazines that you see at the grocery store, which just are marketing everywhere. Overall, if you're not going to quit carbs for the rest of your life, do not quit carbs for 3 months to lose weight. I'm telling you, you'll gain all of the weight back as soon as you bring the carbs back. So no use. So keep the carbs, keep the complex carbs in your diet. Avoid the chronic low carb dieting because it will increase your cortisol levels and lower the thyroid function, which slows down weight loss by a lot. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to time your carbohydrates around training. So your exercise, so if you're training at 5 p.m., right, have a carb meal before that, etc. Because carbs will help you not only perform better, recover better, but also metabolic efficiency. So remember that. That's the nutrition part. So what you can do is for breakfast, generally, like if you're not diabetic and if you have no medical problems, if you're a normally healthy person and you just want to lose weight, this is how we do it. So breakfast, do something like oats and eggs or some Greek yogurt. For lunch, you can have some rice, chicken, and some vegetables. For dinner, you can have, you can swap these around. Like we give our clients hundreds and hundreds of recipes, but overall, I'm just giving you a general framework. For dinner, you can have something like, roti or tortilla or even rice with some other protein source and some vegetable or a simple fruit. But overall, you want to keep the carbs around. You don't want to overindulge, but you also don't want to be cutting them out unnecessarily. So that's nutrition, right? The next part is training. So this is where we've talked about so far. We've set the goal. We want to lose 40 pounds. Then we talked about nutrition. Do not cut out carbs unnecessarily and prioritize protein. Okay. Those are the two things in nutrition. And obviously you can get a PhD in it. And we teach our clients a lot of that stuff once they're inside the coaching. But overall, like for you, I'm just giving you end-to-end free training here. So, and I don't know your exact scenario. Every person is slightly different. But now we're going to talk about training. Okay. Training is important because with nutrition, we can lose the fat. With training, we can get you stronger. So I want you to think about it. With a better nutrition lifestyle, you will lose fat today, right? But we want to keep that fat off forever. How can we do that? Well, the only way we can do that is increasing our muscle, increasing the strength in your body. Because muscle, as opposed to fat, muscle is an active tissue. The more muscle you have, even if you have 5 more pounds of muscle, which doesn't sound like a lot at all, which isn't, 5 pounds of muscle will be burning calories every hour. Even when you're asleep, your muscles are burning calories, which keeps you lean. That's why people who lift weights end up looking toned and amazing, right? Versus people that just do cardio end up just looking like they haven't lost any weight. So this is where training is very important. Can we lose weight without training? Yes. Can we keep it off without training? And the answer gets to be no. Okay. So training. Most women, what they do is they overemphasize cardio, not realizing that your metabolism actually burns 5 times more calories than cardio every single day. So your metabolism, right? Very important, because if your metabolism is burning 5 times more calories than cardio, then why don't we actually work on the metabolism? And the best way to work on this metabolism is to increase it is to do strength training. So strength training and building a bit of toned muscle is one of the best ways to increase your metabolism, right? So this is very important. I would rather you not be spending 5 hours running or doing cardio. First of all, it's not even good for your knees. But overall, I would rather you not. I know you have a life, you have kids, you have a corporate job, you have a family a lot of the time, right? So I would rather you focus on strength training. Let's improve, let's increase the metabolic rate. So then we can lose the weight even while we sleep. So that's number one. Number two, resistance training elevates metabolism for 24 to 48 hours, right? Unlike cardio, which burns only during activity. So this is very important because it's what we call the afterburn effect. The afterburn effect of resistance training is you will be burning calories even after. So let's say you do a 30 minutes of resistance training on Monday, right? You'll still be burning calories and your body will still be burning calories the rest of that day, that night, the next day, the next night, right? So you see how the is keeping your metabolism active even though you just lifted weights for 30 minutes versus cardio, you only burn calories the 20 minutes you're doing it. So as soon as you get off the treadmill or the elliptical or the running, you're not burning anything. So you see how resistance training is just so much more beneficial, right? And then building lean muscle also increases basic metabolic rate, right? It burns 60 to 70% of your daily calories. So the more muscle you have, the more toned you will look, the more, you'll have the body of your dreams, but also you'll keep less and less fat on your body. And that's the tool. That's the trick there. And then cardio is a tool for health and conditioning. So I don't want you to ignore the cardio, but at the same time, know the actual uses of it, right? So cardio is a tool for health and conditioning, cardiovascular conditioning, but it's not the main driver for fat loss, as opposed to the popular belief where people think, oh yeah, I just got to do more cardio. It's not going to be as helpful. Okay. So we talked about nutrition. First, we had the goal. We talked about nutrition. We talked about training. Now we're going to talk about accountability. Okay. Accountability is one of the main things I hear. I ask clients, I'm like, when people reach out to us to become clients, I have a conversation with them and I always ask them, I'm like, what happened last time? They're like, yeah, I lost the weight and then I gained it all back. I'm like, why do you gain it back? Right. They always tell me they lost motivation and they speak of themselves in a very demeaning way. They're like, yeah, if only I'd stuck with it. I feel so guilty. I just can't stick with it, Mo. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I'm like, nothing is wrong with you. Right. Most women, what they do is they try to either wing it or go at it alone, only to get lost, confused, distracted by the latest trend. So as soon as something starts working, they see another trend. So then they go run towards that. As soon as this starts working, they see one of their friends at school or at work who's doing this other thing. Then they run towards that, right? And then they fall off because there's no professional accountability. And as soon as work gets stressful, life gets stressful, they basically just go back to their old life and then forget about their fitness journey. I see this day in and day out, right? So here's what I want you to do instead. I want you to track progress with weekly check-ins and measurable markers. So every Saturday or every Sunday, step on the weighing scale, right? Do a waist measurement, do any of the three, whichever one feels the best to you. Okay. You can step on the scale. As a matter of fact, you can do all three. That's what I like doing. So you can step on the scale, see where the number is at. You can do a waist measurement around the belly button or right below it. And then you can also measure your strength. So if last week you were able to do 1 pull-up or 5 push-ups, how many can you do this week? So we just need to track progress every single week. That will give you accountability because too often you're going at it, blindsided and not knowing what to even measure. Like what would progress even look like, right? That's number one. Number two, I want you to use social or coach accountability to prevent falling off when the motivation dips, right? Because the motivation is one of those things that's not consistent. Motivation comes and goes. One day you'll feel very motivated, the next day you might not, right? So this is where having a coach or having some social support can really help. problem with the social, when I was writing this, I was thinking about this. Problem with social is when you rely on your friends or your aunt to keep you accountable, problem is they're not very accountable to themselves to begin with. So then over time they forget about their goal, you forgot about your goal, and then both parties are losing, right? So this is where it's very careful. Be very careful who you pick for accountability. And then last thing, right, is systems. Systems are routines that can actually keep the weight loss going. So this is where meal prep, scheduled workouts work way better than just relying on your willpower, right? So just getting more of a routine going is way more useful. And speaking of accountability, right? And before we dive into stress, cortisol, supplements, all of that, if you know you'll need help implementing this properly and staying on track, because this journey is simple, but it's not easy to execute. Okay. The implementation part of it gets hard because a lot of it is psychological and then it ends up being an uphill battle for a lot of people. So I dropped my website here. This is our coaching website. Just go to www.twtt.us. It's just short for Training with the Titans. This is where you can book a free consultation with myself or one of our coaches, and we'll walk you through the entire fitness journey. And actually, we can talk about the next steps because overall, we have hundreds of clients that have worked with us and that currently work with us. And they hire us for accountability because accountability on its own, and then lack of step by step. Like I'm giving you everything I can based on, the limited information I have. But overall, imagine how much more detailed this can get once we're actually coaching you and once we get to know you better and how simple we can make it based on your lifestyle because we're big fans of simplicity because anything hard you just are not able to sustain. Like I've been fit for 10 years now. I lost weight. I used to be a fat engineer who got himself in a good shape with the help of a coach. That coach changed my life because he gave me accountability and a plan I could follow. And then every week we measured progress, right? And I had somebody to be accountable to. And that was the start of my fitness journey. And then I built Training with the Titans to help hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of others do the same, right? So you can go to our website, take a look at it, right? Take a look through testimonials and all the other clients that have lost the weight, and just book a free consultation call if you think that this is the stuff that you're missing right now. But because that's our bread and butter, that's what we do. We coach clients. So that's that. Now, if we go to the next step, because I'm going to keep giving you more tactical and more strategic and actionable items, let's talk about stress, right? I was thinking about this yesterday because out of all the clients I've coached, I don't remember a single one who was very stressed and still lost weight. It is very, very, very difficult. Okay. Obviously, we teach our clients coping mechanisms and all of it, but the fact that stress plays such a huge role in our life, right? And everybody handles stress differently, and some people's threshold for stress are a lot different, right? Some people might not be able to take in as much stress, and some can handle a lot more. And I think that is what we should work on as humans, as Muslims, as people of faith, right? Is without the right stress management diet, you can work as hard as you want, but you won't see optimal progress and you'll feel miserable along the way, right? And the thing is, cortisol is the stress hormone, right? And high cortisol, and the high the stress, high cortisol, it promotes fat storage, right? Especially in the midsection. And then it's going to reduce your recovery. So you'll be running in circle eights, not making as much progress. And then what happens is crazy diets don't help either because extremely low calorie diets, they magnify stress, right? Especially harmful for women that have busy lifestyles, right? That have corporate jobs during the day. And then in the evening, they have kids to pick up and they got to do all of that. So if you're on a really low calorie diet, not helpful. And then you have the stress reduction tools, right? So if I was to break it down, I call these the coping mechanism because stress is a constant in life. We're always going to have stress. Something will always be stressing you out, whether it's work related, whether your car broke down, whether it's bills, whether, you name it. There's so much stressors around us. But what we can do is the coping mechanisms. How we cope with stress matters a lot. So this is where I'm a big fan of prayers. I'm a big fan of meditation. I'm a big fan of taking walks. I'm a big fan of journaling. That's why you see this pen around me, right? Journaling really helps as well. All of these things, and just being able to communicate with your spouse, being around positive people, right? Like changing the environment here and there. If you get sick and tired of like being in one place, you can, go for a little trip. Just doing all these things to reduce the stress, right? That actually is a very, very important factor when it comes to fat loss. So hope all that is making sense. So I'm curious, so far, what are you doing to manage stress? Like, what are some of your coping mechanisms? Write that down. What are some of my coping mechanisms? A lot of the time I notice It's very dangerous when people's coping mechanisms end up being stress eating, binge eating. I talk to women all the time where one of our clients, she actually has a PhD, and she was telling me how it used to be that every time she got stressed, she would just binge eat. She would emotionally eat. She would stress eat, right? So that is so detrimental because as a result, now she's gaining more fat. And obviously, her body is storing more fat because of high cortisol. So now you have two bad habits working against her. And now by the end, she was 220 pounds. Obviously, by now, she's actually 158 pounds working with us over the last 6 to 9 months. So we've been able to lose a lot of that weight. And a lot of that came down to helping her psychologically. And obviously, we gave her the best workouts and the nutritional plan and weekly check ins and the accountability and the day to day, all of that, right? But overall, stress reduction, very, very important. So make sure you have this managed. If you currently don't have a coping mechanism, start adding something. Start maybe doing a morning meditation, maybe some prayer, maybe some morning walks or afternoon walks or evening walks. Those are really helpful. Now, sleep, the most neglected area of them all when it comes to fat loss. Nobody thinks about sleep as much, right? They're like, yeah, just got to diet harder, just got to exercise more. No, but if you get less than 7 hours of sleep as a busy corporate professional, I'm telling you, you'll make fat loss much slower and harder. 7 hours, I'm still happy with. I think under 6 hours, that's where it starts getting really bad, right? That's where you're always just lagging behind. And then you're compensating for it with coffee, which is not as helpful, right? Nothing wrong with coffee, but overall, just get adequate sleep. And if you can get 6 hours and 7 hours a night, just take a nap if you can during the day. That's totally fine. So if your sleep quality is lower, then even if you get 7 hours, you might still get the consequences of poor sleep. So what poor sleep does is there's two factors to sleep. Okay, so you have the quality and then you have the quantity. Quantity is the number of hours. So shoot for 7 to 8 hours, right? But then there's also quality. I have this Aura ring. Aura is a great gadget or digital product. It's just a ring. It measures your sleep quality. So every morning when I wake up, I just plug in, I open up the app on my iPhone, and then it tells me how I slept last night. So it gives me ways to improve my sleep because it gives me data. Because we cannot improve what we don't measure, right? So if we're not measuring weight loss, if we're not measuring our training, if we're not measuring our nutrition, we're not measuring our sleep, how are we going to ever get there, right? So these things, that's what we teach in our coaching program in more detail. But overall, poor sleep is going to mess up your hunger, is going to mess up your willpower too, as well as your metabolism hormone, metabolic hormones while raising cortisol. So prioritize sleep. And even one bad night of sleep, it can impair insulin sensitivity and cravings. So the days that you don't get very good sleep, you're actually going to struggle with more cravings. Now, improve sleep quality with consistent wind down routine. So here's how you can improve it. Okay. So I call it the wind down routines. We also call it the evening routine. So in the evening, about an hour to 2 hours before you fall asleep, turn your phone off, right? Go make yourself a chamomile tea. Just relax. No screens before bed. A cool, dark room. I think the ideal temperature is 65 degrees to 69 degrees, right? That's how cool you want your room to be. No screens before bed, cool dark room, and other custom strategies, right? Based on your goal and based on your quality rest. We even boil it down to the mattress. We recommend those for clients, like what kind of mattress to buy, the pillows, etc. But overall, sleep quality and quantity are just as important. So do not neglect those. So aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. If you can't, just aim for, having 5 to 6 hours at night and then taking a nap during the day if you can. Um, and then the quality of sleep comes down to, right, wind down, having a routine in the evening, right? No screen before bed, have some chamomile tea, have a Aura ring that can measure your sleep, etc. But overall, we're almost at the end here. Last part would be supplements, right? So supplements, too often people think that supplements are very important, which they are, but then sometimes people think they're not important at all. So supplements are what they are. They're supposed to supplement your diet. They're supposed to fill in the gaps. That's it, right? So here, most people overemphasize this, right? But it's cherry on top of your foundations that we already covered. So, but if you do have sleep issues, if you do have insufficient sunlight based on where you live, like I live in Michigan, so in the winter, we get a lot of cloudy days. And then if you struggle to get your protein in or don't like fish enough to consume it regularly, there are four favorite essential supplements that I really like, right? So we have magnesium. If you struggle with sleep quality, magnesium glycinate is by far my favorite supplement to have before bed. It will literally give you the most restful sleep. So if you haven't been having dreams lately, magnesium will actually take you down into the deep sleep where you actually can dream. And then you have vitamin D. A lot of people are vitamin D deficient, especially in the colder states, right? And then whey protein, if it's tough for you to eat enough chicken or eat it from the meats, right? Get some whey protein. Omega 3s, if you're not somebody that eats salmon regularly, omega 3s actually support hormone balance and recovery. And then bonus, caffeine, right? Caffeine is actually not as bad as people think at all. Caffeine is actually a very useful supplement, right? I drink 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day. Most scientists like actually drink more. The thing with caffeine is don't use it as a way to compensate for a lack of sleep. But caffeine does boost productivity. It will make you feel more alert. It does improve workout performance. It does all of that, right? Just make sure you're not drinking sugary lattes. So if you're drinking coffee, just drink it black. Maybe add a little sweetener in there, but don't go too crazy with extra added calories, right? So because overuse of caffeine can actually elevate your cortisol level. And then the last bonus is creatine, right? So creatine is the most studied supplement for strength, lean muscle, and metabolic support. And I promise you, if you hydrate properly, if you drink plenty of water, you're not going to have any, and your digestive system won't be mad at you because that generally, like a lot of the side effects or some of the side effects from creatine are generally dehydration. So if you're already dehydrated, don't take creatine. But overall, take creatine, just be plenty hydrated, and I promise you, you'll feel stronger. It actually even has a lot of cognitive benefits as well for your brain, and I promise you, it's not going to turn you into a Hulk, because these supplements will actually help you with your exercise as well. So I think that was it. So overall, this training from end to end, right, all the way from the start, where we started talking about the goal. So once you identify the goal, then going to nutrition, then adding in the training, then talking more about what we were talking about earlier, which is accountability, then talking about sleep, and then at the end, the supplements, right? So if you're currently not doing anything, start doing these things, right? And if you need my help or my team's help in actually implementing this stuff, right? Just remember, you can easily just go to our website, which is just twtt.us, and then just book a free consultation, and then we can guide you. But overall, I hope this gives you some more in depth on how real weight loss works, right? And if you want to see some of our case studies and some of our clients, just go to my Instagram or on our website and you'll see plenty. But overall, I hope this gives some value, and then and I hope in return I gained your trust in helping you with your weight loss. But overall, just take it, use it, start implementing it, and inshallah you'll see success. Take care.